Now I'm here and present. Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to Bitch I Ain't Scared.
We are continuing our Wes Craven month with episode 15.
Yes.
We're going to talk about his earliest work of directorials and just kind of move up the ladder leading up to his last movie. We're not going to do the whole filmography today, just half of it. And then later this month, we'll do the second half. But yeah, that's what our episode's about today. Mm-hmm. But we're going to talk about a couple of things first before we get into that.
Yeah, just some tidbits. Today, I learned that the original performer for Godzilla passed away. His name was Haruo Nakajima. So that's kind of sad. But it was nice to be reminded of that legacy because I can't say that I'm a big fan of Godzilla. I remember watching some of them when I was really little, back in the 60s when I was a child. Ha.
Yeah.
And I think I remember Mothra more than Godzilla, but yeah, I don't know a lot, but still I think it was important to harken back to the beginnings of different horrors, and that was a big deal back in the day, and it was international. That was one of the, I think, first examples of something outside of the United States just blowing up and everybody latched onto it.
Yeah.
So
it's also good to recognize people that aren't directing and writing and actual faces that are on screen. Yes, you probably aren't familiar with him by just looking at him, but that's because he is known to be in a suit the whole time, and we may praise the actual monster, but there's also a man under there, and it's good that he's being recognized on his passing. So that is a sad loss, and hopefully he left behind a great legacy and the start of something, because he played one of the greatest monsters ever. So
yeah, and it's still going. It's a very different iteration. Is that the right word? But thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. In a time where we didn't have CGI, we thank you for creating monsters with us. So
yes. And also, I read this article that my friend Jasmine sent to me. It has nothing to do with horror, but it reminded me immediately of a film. So apparently in the Dominican Republic, there is a village where girls frequently become boys. And legitimately, they become boys. They grow penises. So this is not made up. This is not science fiction. This is real. They are born with gonads. And at age 12, around there, they develop penises and they become full-fledged boys. And I don't remember the exact science behind it, but it reminded me of the movie Splice. And I'm not being funny. I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything like that.
Yeah.
Intent versus impact. But I thought it was really interesting because it was like they're almost evolved beyond us or something, That
is interesting. Did it say how often it happens?
It's 1 in 90.
Okay.
1 out of every 90, and that's pretty significant.
So is it like something in the water or something?
I don't know.
That's very specific.
I don't know.
In one location,
and they are just they call them God, I can't remember the name. I should have pulled up the article. It's like Guerra Hechos. Which it's like it translates like girl into boy or something. You have to look up this article. I'm doing a terrible job,
point.
But it's like
they become a boy and that's it. Like
yes, they're men. And there's they said there's some differences versus someone who's just born with a penis already. Like they have slightly smaller prostates.
Okay,
that's interesting because women don't have prostates. For those of you who didn't know that. And it was just really fascinating to me. I was like, oh, wow. They're kind of superhuman. I don't know. To me, I thought it was really interesting. But the community, they don't shun them or anything. Apparently in Papua New Guinea, I'm trying to say that right, it also happens. There's another incidences where this does occur, but they're shunned. in the
Oh,
community because
okay.
they're not real boys, or they're something, they don't support it. But this is in the Dominican Republic, where I was originally speaking of. They are like, yeah, it happens. I mean, they're kind of like cooler than the rest of us. So I thought that was cool.
Interesting. Hey, look at that. You listen to a horror podcast. You have no idea what we're going to be talking about, and sometimes you may learn something.
I mean, I learned something. I was like, wow. I was like, stuff really happens. You watch a movie and it's like, no. I mean, splices, of course, like ridiculous. But that was really interesting. So I don't know. They're drinking something out there.
Yeah.
And it's turning them into superheroes. Yeah. So that was all that I really had.
Okay. So the one thing that I had is I wanted to talk about our Facebook page. Aside from the page, I decided to create a group page as well. And with this one, I want to sort of invite people to also follow this page, but to be a lot more interactive with it. It's an opportunity for you guys to share some of the movies that you enjoy watching, recommendations that you have for other groups, and a way to communicate with others who also like horror movies. We welcome everyone, gay, straight, bi, trans, anyone who is a horror fan. We want you to, go to this page and share your love of horror. One thing that did sort of inspire me to create this group is a friend of mine posted something on my personal page, which I don't go to as often as I used to, but I check it every now and then, and he asked me about my thoughts on the movie The Void. And I had already sort of shared my specific opinion about that movie on other, social media. But then I'm like, okay, so he posted that, and I didn't really get to it till a couple of days later. It's like, oh, if there was just one place where you can just be like, hey, has anybody seen The Void? What do you think of it? Should I watch it? This is what sort of motivated me to create this page, and it's not open yet, but I will be posting how to get to it on our official Bitch I Ain't Scared page, and it'll just jump you right over to the community page, and hopefully there we can get more discussions going, more interactive talk, some trivia, things like that. We want you to share any new horror movies in your collection, anything that you want to talk about on there, and we'll be launching it this Friday with Annabelle Creation coming out in theaters. Anybody who sees that movie, no matter when, doesn't have to be the first day or weekend. If you've seen it, go right to our community page, share your thoughts on it, talk about it. The Bias Boys will definitely be seeing it over the weekend, so we'll be there to bounce more feedback from the movie, and hopefully we can get a page started and more members in the group. And that'll be this Friday.
Totally. Now to get to the meat and potatoes of this conversation. So Wes Craven had, not really humble beginnings, but kind of, because this was back in the 70s. It was almost like independent horror filmmaking, because he didn't have big budgets.
No.
So he was scaring people with only a few dollars. And what was his very first outing?
Yeah, so his very first directorial debut was this movie I believe he had also written, The Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
This was back in 1972. So yeah, he wrote and directed it. And this movie had a very controversial sort of backlash to it, because it had some very heavy scenes in it that I guess we didn't know back in the day if people were ready to watch stuff like that. Have you seen the original?
No, I saw the remake.
Okay.
But my mother, I remember her talking about it. She saw it when she was a kid. I think she saw it at the drive-in, and she said that it was very brutal. Mm-hmm. Because back then, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sure you've heard things about it, whether it's the remake or the original. Beyond just bloody gore and violence. There's some sexual violence, and that is probably what people were not accustomed to. I don't think there was a lot of it before then. And even when we're dealing with rape in film, it was sort of like a cutaway. You see somebody kind of getting rough with an actress, and then they would pan away.
Yeah, there's always the implication. It wasn't like in your face. You just kind of knew what was going on just from the sounds and the way the music and camera was moving.
So I think this was the first exception to that rule, or at least one of the first, and it was too much for some people. And honestly, it's too much for me. That's the one thing that I can't really deal with it.
Did you ever see I Spit on Your Grave?
No.
Okay, so yeah, that one, that was pretty brutal. I mean, if you couldn't do this one, I Spit on Your Grave is something you definitely wouldn't be able to handle. That scene in itself, even the remake was just not awful and like this movie sucks, but just like the scene is pretty graphic.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing Last House on the Left once. I don't have too big memories of it to really go into detail about it today. However, what I will say is that aside from the sexual acts that were happening, it was the parents that surprised me more. And even if I watched the remake, even though they're not like the exact same movie, the parents is what got me so interested in the story, because nobody wakes up in the morning thinking they are going to take revenge on people who raped their daughter.
Yeah.
And the means that they'll go about doing it. When they find out about their daughter, they could have easily just went crazy and like called the police or started crying or found a way to give themselves away that they're harboring the people who did it. Immediately, the both of them as a couple came to the decision, we're not calling the police. We're not going to turn them in. We are going to get what's ours and take them out ourselves. Both of them are not criminals. They're not evil people. But the love of their daughter drove them both, and they consciously made the decision to just take them out.
Yeah.
And I think one scene in particular is when the wife was seducing one of the people, and she went all the way to like giving him oral fixation. Yeah, she went down on him.
Really?
And then when he let his guard down, she like bit it really hard and took away some of his like advantage over her and took him out. Now, again, you are a mom who, every day plays this housewife and does their thing. Whoa. And then you wake up and say, I'm capable of doing this, because you just have so much rage, and it's just like, my God. And Wes Craven, we're like, wow, for even taking the risk to do something like that. So
and I think
kudos to him for his first one.
This is something that anybody could relate to. It's something that you probably don't want to relate to. You don't want to face this part of yourself, but we're all capable of it. When you're forced into a corner or you're faced with a decision. I mean, I've definitely had thoughts like this. No, I don't want to hurt people. But if somebody hurts someone that I love, I could put it on easily. I don't feel bad for him, getting his dick bitten off. I just am shocked that happened in the movie, because I haven't seen it, and it certainly wasn't in the remake.
So, real quick, the remake, what do you think of that?
I saw it in the theater by myself, and it was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's still very brutal. Mm-hmm. She seduces him, but she doesn't go to that extent.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They still fuck him up, but it's not like that. So, wow.
I went with a couple of friends, and they actually found it to be very comedic because of the lack of skill these parents had on taking them down. So it was just like these bumbling, two parents who didn't know what they were doing. And
but
so
I appreciated that, because it's like
it's real.
They're not used to that. But they're angry. They're upset. They're like, we're gonna get them. But it's like, that's how most of us would be. We're not trained killers. We're not naturally violent. So I appreciated it.
Okay, so the next film is called The Fireworks Woman.
So we're going to keep this brief. And apparently there's some sort of confusion where people are like, they don't necessarily know if it was actually him directing. He has a cameo in
That's
the movie,
right.
so they're like, we're pretty sure he did it. But he did it under an alias, Abe Snake, if he did it. This movie's a porno.
Yeah. And so just a heads up, we are going by the IMDb's.com page saying under his director list. So it's got us there, but it says 1975 as Abe Snake was, I guess, his pseudonym.
I don't think this was a horror movie. I think it was like a straight up porno where this girl, she sleeps with her brother and then he becomes a priest because he slept with his sister, but she's like, no, I'm not done. And I don't know.
That's an interesting plot for porn.
It's just an interesting thing back in the 70s, probably even 80s. I mean, people would do porn, but they would still transition into, quote unquote, legit work. And normally you hear about actors, but I mean, it's like Wes Craven he made Last House on the Left, and then if he did this, he directed a porn, and then he went on to direct more movies that were not porn.
Yeah.
So, you hear about Sylvester Stallone. Apparently, one of his first movies was a porn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Apparently, a lot of people back in the day were in porn, trying to, work.
All right, so hey.
So,
that next time you are watching a movie with an A-list actor, most likely they did a horror movie or porn.
or both.
Or both, yeah.
So the next one, let me guess.
Yeah, we're going on record, never seen this movie, so we are moving on.
I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't have time. Is the next one The Hills Have Eyes?
Yes.
Okay.
1977, The Hills Have Eyes.
All right.
This is the one with Dee Wallace and Robert Houston. Who else do we know in there?
He's still a working actor. He plays... has he played Jupiter? Is that the character's name?
Yes.
What's his name? It's Michael Berryman. I think that's his name. Pretty sure.
Jupiter. Let me see. I'm curious now. Yeah, James. Okay, so the guy who played Jupiter is James.
Yeah, so it's not Jupiter. Maybe it's Pluto.
It's Pluto. Yeah, Michael Berryman. Yeah, he.
No.
Well, he's he's the guy on the poster. If you look at the original,
I just don't know which planet they're named after.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yes, he's. I mean, when you see him, you might not know him. You might not even know which movie it is. But when you see him, you're like, yeah, I've seen him before.
He was on Weird Science. Do you remember that biker group that kind of came in at the end, terrorizing the party?
I mean,
he was a part of that group.
Yes, okay, I do remember.
Yeah, he was a part of that. So that's where I remember him for mostly. But
yeah, and he worked with. I mean, obviously they did the sequel for Hills, but he also worked with Wes again in Deadly Blessing.
Ah, okay.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you see this?
No, I saw the remake.
Okay, so I saw the remake first, and it was never really on my radar to watch the original. Not to say that it's super dated, but I didn't really have too much access to movies like these. It just wasn't something that was on my list to watch. But for the sake of our podcast, and again, this is why I love having a podcast, so I can go back and watch titles like these so I can talk about them. This was actually good.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. The movie's about 90 minutes, and it's there was a lot of key moments that happened in the remake that happened in this one.
I think so, yeah.
And surprisingly enough, the same characters ended up living.
Yeah, I thought
dying in the same
happened.
one.
Yeah.
And so, given that, as the movie was progression, I was like, oh, okay, I think I already know who live or die.
Yeah.
The whole dog thing, because you remember they had two dogs, right? In the ring. Oh, yeah, I know it's been a while. So they had two dogs named Beauty and Beast.
Oh.
Yeah. And I guess the dogs are like kind of the first that kind of messes around with them and kind of lures them over to the family, the fact that they're there. There was a really big chunk of movie that focused on the dogs, because they went missing for a while, and then the son went out to look for them. They only found one of them, and the other one died. But I don't remember this from the remake, but the son found the dead dog, so he knew something is out there.
Yeah.
But instead of scaring everyone, he chose to keep it to himself. And then when shit hit the fan, that's when he got honest about it. And I'm wondering if that would have helped or made it worse if he had spoken up about what he had saw.
figured it would probably help. It's like, well, whether there's somebody or there's something, it's like maybe we should, move along, keep it pushing, because something ate our dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably leave.
So their car broke down. They literally had no help whatsoever.
Oh, well, there was
just
down.
there was no way for them to get out.
Well, I don't know.
So just kind of speaking up about it, I don't know if that would have caused more of a panic, but
well, they would have maybe been more aware.
Yeah. But this is another movie that tests the ability of what humans are capable of when they are pushed to a corner, which I did like. I thought the family, the ones that lived, in the hills or whatever, were pretty messed up. But it's funny, this movie and Last House on the Left had that one character who was part of the villainous group, but were good. Like, they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what kind of like broke sort of like the edge that this villainous family had over, was that there was that one member who was able to kind of like, okay, this is what's really going on. And so it's just this common thing that I'm seeing so far with Wes Craven, is that, there is a little bit of hope in between, somebody who's completely evil.
Yeah.
But it was actually still good, even though it wasn't as gory. Now, I will say that the remake terrified me in that theater. I was stressed out just from the rape of that mom. And just the baby being there, yeah.
There's a lot of rape in his early career.
Yeah.
Like, for real. Or very suggestive, perverted characters. Characters who were, watching women. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see the original. I didn't see the sequel.
I didn't, yeah. The effects in the first one were still pretty good. There was a lot of blood. Trust me, people got hurt in this movie, and that's the other thing, is that if you don't really supply a lot of blood, there's a lot of screaming and just a lot of implications of pain, and they did what they had to do to survive, and it was still a bit suspenseful. So I liked it. What'd you think of the remake?
It was terrible.
Yeah,
it was intense.
Yeah,
it was. You can kind of guess what's going to happen. But yeah, it was pretty terrible. I don't remember a character from the Hills family being more sympathetic or wanting to not hurt the family. I don't remember that.
Well, if it is the same character, and I'd have to watch it again, it was this character named Ruby. It was a little girl. Exactly.
Oh, I do remember the little girl. I just don't remember her doing anything.
Yeah, I see.
I remember her being kind of, different, but I don't know.
Well, in the original, she helped take care of the baby that was being kidnapped, because they were going to eat the baby.
Oh, okay.
When the family started fighting back, and then when they were like, kill the baby, and then when they went to go get it,
Ruby had the baby.
And just ran, so it kind of helped. And she kind of saved the day a little bit with the final battle too, but I don't have too much memory of the remake.
I don't remember her being part of the finale.
Yeah.
I just remember her sitting there saying crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. After this, doesn't he do TV movies?
Yeah, so he went through a stint of TV movies. The first one was Summer of Fear, and this was in 1978.
Introduction of Fran Drescher.
Yeah, so I've never seen this movie, but I gotta say I'm impressed with the list of actresses that he worked with in this movie. So this is a movie about witches, and in it was Linda Blair, who was not too shy to wear the makeup again. I'm looking at a picture of her right now. She's got these boils all over her face and rocking a fro like nothing else.
Yeah, she is. It's that humidity, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was particularly cool because when I found out Fran Drescher was in it, and it was her first role, I was like, look at that. See, we keep saying it, but actors, they start in, not porn, but they start in horror movies. They do soap operas, they do horror movies. That's how you get your chops and you work on set. So to my fellow actors out there, performers, don't be ashamed of doing a horror film. Even if you feel like it's not great or the script is whatever, it's like, hey, it's experience, and you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes they're terrible, and people are like, "I love this movie." It gets a cult following.
Yeah, this is for you, Rooney Mara. I'm still hating. She did the remake to Nightmare and just like literally went on record like, I just needed a check. I did not want to be here. Yada yada yada. And then women moved on to do some great things. So don't hate the roots. I'm sorry. I think it's stupid that people look at horror movies that way. And you know, like a job's a job, and you just do the best that you can at whatever you're given.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was cool. The next one that he did, I forget, it was like Invitation to Hell. Is that what it's called?
I think so. I think that was the next movie. Let me see.
Which starred Susan Lucci. If y'all don't know who Susan Lucci is, I mean, she's famous for playing Erica Kane on All My Children. That was my grandma's favorite soap opera, and that was her favorite character.
Yeah, so that was his next TV movie, but it wasn't the next one. So actually, in 1981, it was Deadly Blessing.
Oh, so Deadly Blessing came first.
Okay,
so let me talk about Deadly Blessing real quick. Yes,
I want to hear about this movie because I didn't see it. This is Sharon Stone, right?
Sharon Stone's first like starring role.
Okay.
She wasn't the main character though. She was one of the best friends that came from LA to help out her friend after her husband's been killed. And he comes from a community that's sort of like Amish people, but they're called the Hittites. I think it's made up. And they're like, oh, Amish are swingers compared to them. But so her husband leaves the community and marries her because she's from the city. So his family shuns him, and they like say the incubus. Like I thought they were calling her the incubus, like she's a demon and she's a bringer of evil because she's outside of the simple ways of the community. So Sharon Stone and Susan Buckner, who is famous for playing what's her name in Grease? What was that character's name? Patty Simcox.
Mm-hmm.
So Vicky and whatever that Lana, that was their names. They came to visit Maren Jensen. I can't remember her character's name right now. Martha. That's an old lady name. And interestingly enough, Maren Jensen, Susan Buckner, this was their last film roles. Both.
Okay.
But it was Sharon Stone's first. And so it was a confusing movie. I can't say it was a great movie, but I thought it was going to be really, really bad because they say it's one of the worst. I was surprised.
So was it like a horror or was it like a thriller?
It's a horror movie because it's like a slasher movie.
Okay.
But then there's some heavy, heavy supernatural shit going on, and it's like, so is there a slasher? Because all of the barn doors slammed shut at the same time. It's hard for me to believe in broad daylight there's a bunch of people running around the farm.
Okay.
Because there's a really good chase sequence with Sharon Stone where she goes into the barn to get something and then the door slams shut and then all of the shutters slam shut. So she's trapped in this dark-ass barn. And there's all this symbolism with spiders where Sharon Stone keeps having nightmares about this guy holding her head, and he's like, open your mouth wider, and then a spider falls into it.
That's depicted on the poster
she's on the poster with all her boobs, and it's like, she's not even the main character. So it was strange, and the ending was satisfying for me because I was like, oh, now it makes sense. There is a supernatural element.
Okay.
Which actually this was producers' interference. One time that I'll say, oh, I feel like they did a good job.
Okay.
Because if they hadn't... Oh, and by the way, this came out before Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, okay.
And there's a character that it's like, I don't know what the deal is, if they're supposed to be a hermaphrodite or they're supposed to be a boy the whole time. But,
yeah.
And the mother even says, if Faith had been a boy, I would have drowned her in the river. So I think the mother made her son dress like a girl, or she was a hermaphrodite and just said, you know what, you're just going to be a girl.
Okay.
So it was very strange. I didn't know who was killing who because the mother and the daughter were both crazy, and I think they killed people at different times. Michael Barrymore's in the movie.
Yes.
He was
Berryman, yeah.
Yeah, Berryman. I keep saying Barrymore. I don't know. But yeah, Michael Berryman. So yeah, it was confusing. It was strange.
Yeah.
I'm not going to recommend it to anyone unless you're curious about it. But if you want to see Sharon Stone in her first role. Oh, and also, you guys probably know this, but this had a sequence very similar to Nightmare, the original, when Nancy's in the bathtub.
Oh,
this came
really?
before, yes.
Okay.
So when his glove comes out of the water.
Yeah.
So Martha's taking a bath, and a snake is in the water with her, and it comes out of the. It comes up. Same shot.
Wow. I wonder if that's on YouTube. I'll have to look that up and see if that's on there.
Yeah.
That I would like to see that scene. See, it's funny when you get, inspired by some of your previous work. And, you just kind of, say, hey, I can take this, spin it a little bit.
It's kind of funny, though, that he did that. I mean, apparently nobody saw Deadly Blessing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I think, the image of the glove coming out of the water is much better than this snake. It's silly.
Yeah.
But, and this was the one where I complained last week about Vicky's dumb ass. Vicky was fun.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Vicky sounded familiar. I was like, where did I just hear that? Okay, so you were talking about her.
Damn it, Vicky. So stupid. But yeah, so I've talked enough about Deadly Blessing.
Okay. So this is a movie I'm actually sad I've never seen because I saw the sequel, which is super cheesy. So this is 1982. This is Swamp Thing.
Oh.
So I saw Return to Swamp Thing with Heather Locklear, but I have not seen the original.
I think I've seen the sequel too because I wasn't alive when the...
Yeah, well, it's the age. It's how I grew up and what I was like had access to. I think and the sequel just
they put the sequel on TV, so I saw it when I was little. But
this has Adrienne
Barbeau.
Yes, love her. She's cool. She's just she's one of those horror icons. I would say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a scream queen.
Ray Wise, who is more familiar with
he's intense.
Jeepers Creepers.
He was in Jeepers Creepers
Part 2. Yeah, he was the dad who lost his son.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know his face. Yeah, that's kind of cool. He essentially directed a superhero movie.
And he wrote this movie too.
Oh, he adapted it?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I did want to see this though. I just couldn't really find it. But I was looking at just some stills and stuff, and the Swamp Thing looked pretty cool.
That costume is terrible.
I think it's cool for its time.
They got more money for the sequel, and it looks better.
They definitely did.
But I mean,
this is more like Incredible Hulk TV show sort of. I mean, they literally just paint the guy green and then
it just
added
looks
a couple.
Terrible.
But I don't know. For me, for its time, I thought it was all right. But yeah. So you've never seen this one either?
I don't think I've seen the original. Okay. Maybe I've seen the ending, but I do remember the sequel slightly better, and I remember the cartoon.
So the sequel, I never saw.
There was a cartoon briefly.
Oh,
yeah.
So the sequel was heavy on the comedy. I wonder if this one
it was probably more serious.
Yeah, I want to say that it probably was serious. Yeah, I just wonder if it was sort of the same thing because you can't really look at them and get scared anyway. So I want,
no.
So we'll have to see that. But yeah, if any of you guys have seen that, the original Swamp Thing, please let us know if it's any good.
I don't think the comics are still running. I think it's done.
No, yeah. So then from 1982 to 1984, Invitation to Hell.
Right. And so yeah, like I said, Susan Lucci, amazing. I like Susan Lucci. I just think she's...
So was she like a damsel or...
No, I think she's like a villainess. She's, from what I read, she's a demon or something. She's evil. Which, they were like, yeah, let's cast her. She's a bad bitch on All My Children. She's Erica Gain. She's always causing trouble. Let's get her in this movie. And yeah, she was evil. So
it says that this family was coerced to joining some specific club. Do you know, like, what? Do you remember anything about it? No. I haven't seen this one either, but they also say it's sort of like a sci-fi too. So I'm curious what the movie was about. But there was also some other familiar faces. Joanna Cassidy. Do you know her?
Yes, so I know the name.
So she was on Don't Tell Mom, Babysitter's Dead. She was the boss of Christina Ricci.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
she's a cool cat.
Right on top of that, Rose.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
There's also who else? Punky Brewster herself was in this.
Soleil
Moon Frye. Yeah, she was in this. This was a TV movie, so yeah, of course, there's no way I would have seen this unless I was old enough to, look at a television at 3 years old and be like, I want to watch Invitations to Hell.
Nah.
So yeah, this one slipped through the cracks for me, but Yeah, I wonder if this was any good. I haven't really heard
I think
so much about it.
It is on YouTube or something.
Yeah?
I think you can look it up. I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to do that. And then there's a sequel in the same year, 1984.
Wow.
The Hills Have Eyes, Part 2.
And I heard that this one was not good. It was just a cash grab. They said that really nothing happens in the movie.
But it was the same family, right? I thought...
They brought, I'm pretty sure Michael Berryman is in it.
Yeah, he is.
Pretty sure. But they said that whatever I read about it, because I didn't watch it, it was like half the movie was like flashbacks, and even a dog had a flashback.
Yeah, the dog had a flashback.
That's like a comedy.
So were they dealing with the same family too? Is that what was going on? It was because it just seemed like this.
I don't think so.
From the first one, the story had ended. We didn't really watch them like right off into the sunset or anything.
I
but
think it's like I don't know. I feel like it was something else, but I don't know. Yeah. And I haven't seen the remake sequel either, but that was a completely different group of people.
That movie is horrible. Yeah, in this one, it's a bunch of bikers that gets mixed up with the family.
Okay.
There was a military or army
it was like
group
military.
in the second. Oh God, I hated that second one.
We don't have to talk about it.
No, we're not talking about that. And then again, this was a busy year for him. Same year, 1984, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, and this was like the beginning. This was when he was on the map and people were very, very aware of him.
Yes. It seemed that New Line was starting out and promoted this character, and this was the one that put them on the map as well.
Big stuff happening in 84.
I know that we just talked about this last week on our other episode.
And we'll talk about it next week. Spoiler.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it next week for specific reasons. But obviously a great movie, of course. Very scary. You wonder what he did in this movie that he didn't bring to the table with his previous. I mean, this movie is scary. So it's just like, is it the content he was working with, or is it because of New Line? I wonder what it was that just like, because there's a huge difference from making a TV movie and a cash grab sequel to Nightmare. Like was he just waiting and waiting and waiting for an opportunity to do this? Did he have this sort of skill the whole time?
Probably. I mean, he probably needed... I don't even think they had a huge budget on this, but I think he definitely had more money. So maybe he was just waiting, because he had this story brewing. So I have to do a little homework between now and next week.
Yeah. But awesome movie, of course. And then the next year following, 1985, was Chiller. TV movie. Have you heard of this?
Oh, this was like where somebody's... like frozen, but then they wake up and they're
so this guy I guess almost dies, or he does die, and then they freeze him until they can find like a cure or something, and then they achieve it and bring him back, but apparently they brought him back without a soul.
Right.
So I don't know
I don't know what that means.
I mean
it doesn't sound scary. It just
people
sounds
have
sad.
different interpretations on what a soul is and what you can and cannot do without one,
and since I haven't seen it, if anyone's seen it, let me know what that means. But it's like, what does that have to... So what does that mean for the overall plot? So he doesn't have a soul? Is he evil?
Yeah, I'm guessing without a soul, you don't have that sort of like conscious decision to like know what's right and wrong.
It just doesn't say anything though.
Yeah.
I have to look it up because it's like, so is he killing people without any remorse? I don't get it.
Yeah, we should have read about it. But
I don't know if I care that much.
Yeah, never saw this movie, but... I guess it's an interesting premise. I'm sure he... Because, see, you know what? As I was reading this reminds me of the next movie we're going to talk about, which is Deadly Friend, is that, you bring somebody to life and you're not the same person you used to be, but yet for some reason you come back evil. It's like, like, I don't know if it's just a lesson learned, like, once you're here, that's it. Can you come back fully intact, being brought back to life? Who knows? But I mean, that seemed to have been the same thing.
Yeah, I think we've heard these themes before. I mean, once someone is gone, you should let them go.
Yes. So I wonder what his overall sort of message was from this horror movie, especially from this television movie.
I don't know if I can get anything from that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So then afterwards, he did like one episode of what's called Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. I have no idea what that's about.
We don't need to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that. But then he did Deadly Friend in 1986, and last week we already did this. It actually won for deadly DVD barrel.
We're actually breaking the rules. We're not supposed to.
I know, exactly. So, as a reminder, we are not talking about this movie, so we're just going to move on. Listen to last week if you want to hear more about it. He did a couple of episodes of Twilight Zone from 1985 to 1989. Yeah, he did about 5 episodes of that one.
Yeah.
And then he did 1988, The Serpent and the Rainbow.
This movie was...
Pullman. Was that Bill Pullman?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like whenever someone tries to do a story about voodoo, it's just not good. They don't really do a great job. I think it's something that's... We've made it into something with pop culture and movies, but it's not really this evil cultish thing where black people are cursing everyone and putting them under spells and turning them into zombies. We've taken a religion and made it into something else, and it's not very accurate. And even when they do it, it's really not that scary. It's just kind of like, that's awkward.
So we'll probably talk about this later in the next few episodes, but it's got Zakes McKay in it. I'm going to pull up his picture. You probably won't remember him.
I remember him.
Okay, well, you wonder if this movie is like a prequel to his character from like Vampire in Brooklyn, because he was the same sort of like voodoo knowledgeable person in that movie.
Yeah.
So
and it probably, he worked with Wes already, so Wes was like, oh.
Yeah, I'll just bring him back.
Oh, Wes. That's terrible.
I know.
That's just the worst.
I don't have too much memory about this either, but being that my brother's into horror movies, this was in our house a couple of times, so I'm aware of its existence.
It had like dream sequences, but they weren't scary.
Yeah.
A guy rips his own head off at some point. I think that was real. And it was just weird.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good.
Yeah.
Wasn't great.
Well, good to know. Good to know. Let's see. The next one after was 1988. Oh, no, 89. Shocker.
Yeah, I have very little memory about this.
So, Shocker was... So, my brother would have, like, movie posters on his wall. This was one of them. Huh. And me and him sort of have the same taste. I'm sure he liked it for some reason, but I just watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it was terrible. But I will say this. If Wes Craven meant for it to be campy and funny and whatnot, then he did an amazing job. But if this was really supposed to be a scary movie, it was garbage. I didn't like the story that much, and it was also confusing because Wes Craven didn't really establish concrete rules as to what this guy was capable of. It was kind of confusing what he can do. So he basically had like sort of like a telekinetic sort of connection with this footballer who in high school, Peter Burke, and he basically would have dreams or visions of this killer killing families. And it turned out that this sadistic killer was killing families for a reason, but he also like worshiped the devil. And like right before his execution, like literally before he was pulled from his prison cell and taken to the chair, he was like on the floor worshiping, the devil. And then like literally the devil was like, so be it. And so like he like electrocuted him through the TV, and then he sort of just got this electrical power or whatever to transfer his soul into other people. And so obviously when they went to electrocute him and it didn't work, and then the woman who was like pulling the switch or whatever went in, he touched her and transferred his body, and then his actual body died. And then that's how he sort of just rained on. He wanted to get revenge on this high school football player who turned him in.
Right.
And it was just the way that he was acting. He had this limp for no reason. Because let me tell you, anytime this killer was transferring his body to others, he still had the limp. And he was still running like he was a gazelle. Like he still got away and was like running away from like anybody he needed to like race away from. Even though he had a limp. If he was chasing somebody, he would catch up pretty quickly. So it was like, why give him a limp?
Okay.
Yeah, it was just a really weird movie. But again, it did have some campy moments, so I have a feeling like if it's supposed to be sort of said comedy, that's fine.
Interesting.
But I also want to point out that there are two characters in there. So the woman who did get possessed first, that's actually Wes Craven's daughter.
Yeah.
And then there was a jogger in the movie who also got possessed, and that was his son. So he had his kids play a part in the movie.
Cute.
So I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, you've never seen this.
I saw it when I was maybe 5 years old, but I fell asleep.
It's a little cheesy. I mean,
kid.
if Wes Craven was having fun with it, this is the one he did, so be it. And then there was another TV movie in 1990 called Night Visions. I'm actually pretty curious about this movie, but sadly,
this is the one
I have
about
not
like
seen it.
the psychic detective or something.
Well, a cop works with the psychic to
Yeah.
track down a killer. James Remar is in it.
Yeah, it sounds more like a thriller, which is interesting.
Yeah. Mitch Pileggi, who was the criminal or the guy who was, transferring his soul into other bodies in Shocker, he was also in Night Visions as well. And
Wasn't he the smoking guy in X-Files?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
All right.
This is a movie that actually sounds interesting. He did write this one as well. And, one day I'll have to try and look this up, but I haven't really heard too much about it before. But, TV movie, it's kind of hard to track down.
Yeah.
And then we will end the filmography, part one. We'll do his second half of his directing movies later on. Was 1991, The People Under the Stairs. Mm-hmm. I actually established this as one of my favorite Wes Craven movies, and I really like this one. He kept it pretty close. It was about a suburban sort of town, and it was sort of run down. The black community obviously couldn't afford means to stay in there, and I guess the whole point of it was this one house who owned pretty much the whole block was doing their very best to get them all kicked out or run out of town so they could just get more property value from it.
So this was one of the earlier forms of social justice horror. And I think a lot of people didn't take to it back then. And I can't say that it's that scary, especially as an adult. It's not that scary. When I was a kid, it was. But now I do kind of laugh a little bit at the parents. I mean, they're so much. They're just so over the top.
There is a lot of over the top stuff going on.
I think I'm more rooted in the daughter's experience, because what they do to her is scary.
Yeah.
And then the kid, I can't remember his name. It's
Brandon Adams.
Yeah. He, running around the house trying to not be caught. That's still creepy enough. But it's very interesting when you look at the theme, and people rejected that. But, if you watch it these days, it still applies. Gentrification is a big deal. And especially in LA, if you live in LA, you see it everywhere, where they put up these new properties and they tear down neighborhoods to make room for brand new sparkly businesses and townhomes, and it's still a thing. So you should watch it for that reason alone. It's just interesting to combine such a very real world issue with horror film.
Yeah. I remember watching this in theaters, actually. There are tons of jump scares. They're really good at it. And I think because the parents just had no limitation to them, that to me was part of the scariest thing, was that you were literally stuck in this fun house where anything could happen. And we really didn't know sort of the status of the people who were under the stairs, if they were bad or good.
Yeah.
And like Ving Rhames was in it. I think this is the first time that I ever really noticed him on screen before. And I got to give it up to Sean Whalen, who played Roach in the film. He was the one who was sort of loose in the walls, and he was such a likable character. Like, we were all rooting for him. I will say, in the theater when he, got shot and, passed away, like, everyone in the theater was just like, damn. we wanted him to like get out because he was just so helpful, and he made his situation work. But another star that I wanted to point out was Kelly Jo Minter. Do you remember her? So she was on The Lost Boys. Like, actually, no, she was in The Lost Boys, but they kind of removed her scenes because they have her in the credits, but yet she's like in the background in one scene. You can see her face clear on, but she doesn't have like a speaking role.
Was she Brandon's like? Who was she?
She was his sister,
right?
And then she obviously popped up later in Nightmare 5, where she played. She was Alice's best friend. Yeah. One of the many characters.
This was before People, right?
This is for People.
I mean, yeah, the Nightmare 5, didn't that come out before?
Oh yeah, no. 5
was like 89 or something. So this is like 1 year after that. That's interesting that she did that movie. Well, because he didn't work on Nightmare 5, so
that's right. Yeah. I think it might have been before.
That I'm pretty sure. But that's interesting.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed. People on the Stairs was really fun, and I think I always pictured myself as Brendan Adams going through this house, and I was just like, God, if that were me, like, would I live through some of this? That's really
important, actually, what you just said. Mm-hmm. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
But you see a little black boy running through the house, and he's the hero of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So guys, check this movie out if you've never seen it, never heard of it. Early 90s, but if you like the Mighty Ducks,
right?
You'll like this movie because he's in it.
Yeah,
but I think that's really important for you.
This was a really fun movie, though. I mean, like, you never know what's behind closed doors. People who seem normal or living in the suburbs, whatever. You never know. And I love the tagline: "Every town has that one house." That is just like creepy. So we're gonna stop there. And we'll continue his filmography in a later episode. So we're going to do Bitch Really now. And I am going to do a Wes Craven movie, 1995, Vampire in Brooklyn. So there is this character in there. Her name is Nikki. And she plays Angela Bassett's roommate in the movie named Rita. She's played by Simbi Cali, who's more noticeable in Third Rock from the Sun. She played like John Lithgow's secretary. She's really funny in the show. Anyways, in this movie, she plays this woman who is like so jealous of Angela Bassett. She is just like the beautiful one, the one who has like the cop love interest all fawning over her. And Rita is just this woman who is like super promiscuous. She'll sleep with anything, sleep with anyone. She just is heavy on like having sex a lot. So she hits on the cop, Alan Payne, and like to the point of chasing him down to his car. And she offers like, okay, you don't want her, you can have me. I'll fuck you anytime, blah, 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 blah. He rejects her, and she's like super, depressed. She's obviously, insecure. In comes Maximilian, Eddie Murphy, out of nowhere, in the street, just being like, oh, I'm so sad to see a beautiful girl like you, blah, 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 being all, like unhappy. And she literally looks at him and is like, oh, black man, never seen you before, but I'd fuck you. So she doesn't know him, literally met him for 2 seconds, and already she's like, okay, this guy didn't want me, so I'll just sleep with you. Takes him upstairs, they're having sex or whatever, but obviously he kills her and hangs her, up in a tower, hanging on a cross. And I'm just like, bitch, really? Are you really that desperate for attention? You'll sleep with a literal stranger you met on the street. Not to mention bringing some person into your home that you do not know that can also take out your roommate. Like, come on. Nobody is that desperate for sex that you are just going to bring a stranger who says 2 words to you and you're like, oh, done. Let's do it. I just thought that was kind of bad. But, I mean, for the sake of, like, killing somebody on screen, because obviously the body count is not as high, that was just like a very horrible reason to kill somebody off. But I was just like, bitch, really? It's not that serious. You do not need sex that bad. But yeah, it was just a dumb move on her part.
So, slut shaming aside.
I tried not to slut shame as much. Again, I didn't call her a slut or anything.
But you basically did. So, I think you make a good point about, not just women, but there are people in general who are insecure because they feel like, oh, so-and-so is prettier than me, so-and-so is thinner than me, so-and-so is this and that. So yeah, she probably feels like the only way I'm going to be validated is if I have sex with all of these guys. Yeah, I'll have sex with anybody because I'm just looking for love. She was looking for love. And yeah, it is a whack reason just to up the body count. I've thought that character, even as a kid, I saw that. That was a scary scene to me. They don't really show it, but they show her being killed, sort of.
Yeah, there's that red tone sort of look in the room.
And that scared me.
They just saw bites and stuff kind of happen.
But I thought she was going to be more of the Lucy character as far as Dracula. I thought she was going to come back, but they didn't use her at all.
No,
completely wasted character.
Yeah.
But yes, I think this is a good lesson. I can't say that I'm above it. Be careful out there when you're having one night stands. Because, I can say I've been very lucky that I wasn't, strewn up on a cross. Which, by the way, how did he even do that? Shouldn't that have been a no-no for him to just put somebody in a cross form?
Right.
I don't think that's proper. Plot hole. But, yeah.
If anything, just, I don't know. Not to say that there's an amount of knowledge you can know about somebody before hooking up, but the first man that literally approached you in the dead street that you were in.
I mean, people do this all the time, Rob. We know this. People hook up with someone on Grindr, like 5 minutes later. You'll invite people into your home. You'll go to their house. You won't even tell your friends, I'm going to hook up with this person. If you don't hear from me, I'm dead. A vampire killed me.
Yeah, folks. Always write a name, address down somewhere before you go
Just send a text.
Yeah,
it doesn't even have to have any sort of like information. Just be like, this is where I am.
Done.
Yeah. So be careful.
Yes. So, okay. Well, first half of his director movies. We will continue our Wes Craven month next week with a full dissection of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Now, we know that he only directed the first and last, but again, the whole series is based on a character that he created himself.
Yes.
So we want to be, knowledgeable about the entire series and not just the ones that he directed. Let's talk about that series as a whole and get that franchise down. We'll pick out our favorites, maybe put them in order, which ones we like more than the other. But I have a feeling next week's going to be real fun to go through all of these. So tune in next Wednesday.
Catch you next time.
Thanks for listening, guys.
On Bitch I Ain't Scared.